The tragic story begins here at the Westport Pharmacy on Annapolis Road. On the night of November 2nd, 1974, Joe Chester, a delivery man for the Westport Pharmacy, left here with several orders, the last one in Cherry Hill, not far from here. It was at 2707 Spellman Road, but the woman there told Chester she hadn't ordered anything. As Chester walked toward his car, he was apprehensive, suspecting he had been set up for a robbery.
I was looking around, but all of a sudden it just came out of nowhere. It was 4 of them.
He still remembers it vividly.
He had a gun on him, The little guy, his name was Joe, he grabbed me and put the gun to my head and said, if you move, I'll blow your brains out. Well, this tall dude, he kept grabbing me and pulling me away from the gun. I said, oh, Lord, man, I'm gonna blow my head off.
They didn't shoot him, but took all the money from his other deliveries. 5 months later, at the pharmacy, Joe Chester thought he saw that tall dude again when 17-year-old Leslie Vass, a student at Southern High School, walked into the pharmacy to buy something for his mother.
I said, I know him from somewhere. And he left out this, I said, that's the one that robbed me.
The police arrested Vass outside the pharmacy. At the trial, Joe Chester again identified Leslie Vass as one of the men who had robbed him, picking Vass out of the courtroom audience.
I had nothing to do with it.
Leslie Vass, who is now 27, was sentenced to 20 years in prison despite his pleas of innocence. But after serving 8 years, Vass was approached by another inmate who gave Vass a photo of this man, Bucky Nutt, who the inmate said was bragging that he, Nutt, actually committed the Cherry Hill robbery and got away with it.
He said, all you got to do is take the picture and have your lawyer send someone to the victim with it.
But Leslie Vass spent 2 more years in prison before the police agreed to show the photo of Bucky Nutt to robbery victim Joe Chester.
I say, what is he doing out? Because I picked him right out. I said, what is he doing out? He said, that's the one that, I said, yeah, that's the one. He said, well, you picked the wrong man.
Well, I was shocked, and I certainly wanted to get to the bottom of it as fast as possible.
But Baltimore State's Attorney Kurt Schmoke, who was not in office when Vass was convicted, remained uncertain about Vass's innocence when photos of both Bucky Nutt and Leslie Vass were included in a group of photos shown to Joe Chester.
Detectives went out to see Mr. Chester, asked and showed him a spread of 5 photographs and asked him to identify the man who robbed him, and consistently he identified Mr. Vass.
But Joe Chester finally convinced everyone when for the first time he heard Vass speak at a hearing.
He was the same color, and they had the same kind of bush, and it was the same height, but they didn't have the same voice. I didn't hear Leslie Vass speak until he was in the courtroom.
I'm convinced now that the victim made an error, and I do not believe that Mr. Vass in any way participated in that crime.
So the wrong man is now a free man, living with his fiancée in West Baltimore. And although 10 of the best years of his life were wasted, he doesn't hate Joe Chester.
I don't hold no animosity towards him, but I feel that this is someone who has caused me a great deal of hurt.
Well, I feel like it was a simple, honest mistake, but it was a cruel one. They didn't check nothing else out. They just took my word for it.
Is this going to bother you for the rest of your life?
Yes.
And I reflect back on all the things that I went through, all the things that I really desired to do that I couldn't do because of him. I only ask one thing, that they correct us and leave me alone. I don't, nothing else.
You don't want any money?
What? How much money are they going to give me? All I ask that they do, give me a good job.
Vass has had trouble finding and holding a job because his only work history was in prison. So in a way, the wrong man is still being punished wrongfully. I'm Jack Bowden, Channel 2 News.
What happened when I'm here?
Leslie Vass is 29 now, but he was only 17 when he was imprisoned in 1974, accused of robbing the Westport Pharmacy delivery man, Joe Chester. And it was Chester's identification of Leslie Vass, who looked like this then, that sent Vass to prison. But 10 years later, a photo of this man, Bucky Nutt, was shown to Joe Chester by an investigator.
What is he doing out? Because I picked him right out. I said, what is he doing out? He said, that's the one that, I said, yeah, that's the one. He said, well, you picked the wrong man.
Leslie Vass, the wrong man, was set free. Joe Chester has apologized to Vass, and surprisingly, Vass is not bitter towards Chester.
I'm just glad that he acknowledged honestly what happened, right? That he was open and honest about it and didn't, hide it after he realized that he had made the mistake. That's the only thing that I'm very glad of, and I wish him the best.
Vass has now been granted a full pardon by Governor Hughes, officially declaring that Vass was convicted erroneously. But his attorney, J. Edward Davis, says the state still owes Leslie Vass for taking away 10 years of his youth.
What is your liberty worth when you've been deprived of it for 10 years, and particularly as Leslie was put in jail at age 17, and his youth and his real formative years as an adult were snatched away from him, and he was put behind bars.
Leslie Vass was a varsity basketball player at Southern High School when he was falsely accused and imprisoned.
I had high hopes of playing high school ball into college and all, but...
Think you might have gotten a scholarship?
I believe so. I believe so. I really do.
Pro ball?
I would have tried my best, and I'm still trying. I haven't given up that hope of...
But at 29, Vass's dream of pro ball may be just that, a dream. His attorney has petitioned the Maryland Board of Public Works for an appropriate sum of money to compensate Vass for the damage done to his life and to his dreams.
And I'm confident, though, that the Board of Public Works, through the leadership of the governor, will make a significant award to Leslie to reshape his life. That's what it's all about.
And you wouldn't get any percentage of that at all?
No, we don't want any. We think people like Leslie need help. Any compensation he gets goes to him and him alone, no one else, so he can start his life out.
Leslie Vass says the money will help, but he says so does the generosity of his lawyer and the others who have helped him. Jack Bowden, Channel 2 News.
Come on, Leslie. I don't know if that has been considered by the board. I looked at this matter simply as the common denominator of every citizen of our state. It has nothing to do with your lost income, has nothing to do with your family circumstances, and it certainly has nothing to do with your future income or your education. It has to do with what everybody in this country has the basic right to, and it's liberty.
How do you feel now coming out? What does the state owe you? Are you angry? Are you bitter? What are your feelings?
I'm bitter at the system itself, but I'm not bitter at the people, because I've realized that what's happening now is really because of finance. It's not really the concern about actually what happened, not the thing that at the time of me being in prison, that I was 17 and in high school, and when I came home I was 28, so my whole development